Hello everyone, it's Rev Deanna Cox here. I am a minister with the United Church of Canada and I serve the physical communities of Daysland, Killam and Rosalind and this online community of DKR United. And this is our midweek reflection for the middle of, can you believe it already? We're near the middle of October. I can't believe it. It seems like yesterday was September, but anyway. And so we've just had, if you are local in our context, we have just had our Canadian Thanksgiving weekend, with focusing on so much that we've had to be thankful for. We wrapped up our series, our worship series that we've been doing called Come to the Table, and celebrating with joy and thanksgiving and gratitude last Sunday. And so I don't have a new worship series that I am starting immediately, but I wanted to take a couple Sundays and highlight a video or movie, a Canadian documentary film that our church is going to be hosting a viewing of. It's called Operation Lights Out. It's about a humanitarian, the Biafran humanitarian relief effort that Canadians were involved in some years ago. And it's, from what I hear, an amazing film. And so I wanted to highlight that film, and then also over Thanksgiving weekend, and I'm sure since, there was again an resurgence of violence in Israel and Palestine. This has been a very long history of violence in there, and something that we as Christians have struggled with how to address. And so I thought, in light of this film that we're going to show about offering humanitarian efforts in a wartime, I thought it would also, and in light of the current events, and not just because that one is the one that's in the news now, does not mean that we are disregarding other places that are living in war, with war, for a long time. In particular, we continue to hold in our hearts and prayers the people of Ukraine and Russia. There's some in Russia that do not approve of what is happening as well, and are subject. Yes, their lives are troubled, and as much. How do I say this appropriately? There is trauma on both sides. I'll say that. There we go. I got my words. And so we have Israel, Palestine, Ukraine, Russia. A colleague that I know from my time in seminary posted about rising conflict in Guatemala. It is everywhere. Conflict is everywhere. And so I thought, as we are fast on the heels of Remembrance Day, that this film would be a good way to talk about conflict in our world, the response that we are called to as people of faith, and just how we can do something about it other than feel absolutely, utterly helpless. And so I have a colleague in ministry who has done a lot of work and reading on Israel and Palestine, and he posted that violence should never be condoned, that our prayers should be focused on peace and justice for Israelis and Palestinians alike. And So I'm going to expand that to, as we talked about, to any conflict. And the one thing that we need to keep in mind is that the media does better. They get far better ratings when one side is portrayed as an enemy or as evil, when in reality, life is seldom as cut and dry or one-sided. The moderator of our church, the Right Reverend Dr. Carmen Landsdowne, had posted that we need to stop theologizing violence, that we need to be accurate when we talk about that. She said, I would add, when we listen, to be discerning when we listen and when we talk. She noted that there are actually 3 Abrahamic faiths involved: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and that we need to separate that from nationality, Israeli and Palestinian, because there would be some of each in each nationality potentially, right? And to remember that not everyone in any of those faiths not everyone is militant. So essentially, in our discerning, we are trying to avoid binary dualisms. That's like, it's either this or that, us or them, black or white. To avoid binary dualisms, that there's a lot of gray in there. And for example, she said that both sides, or all sides, I guess, of this conflict that we are lifting up today, that there have been violations of human rights on all sides. And so that's just a reminder to be discerning and reflective when we hear things in the news, to not just take things at face value. And that's actually the first thing that I would say. So what can we here in East Central Alberta, small town communities, what can we do about conflict? Well, the first thing is to do our own work, to read and critically, to listen critically. And I don't mean with criticism, that kind of criticism. I mean like reading between the lines, digging deeper into the issue and not just taking the headlines, and exposing ourselves to alternative points of view so that we can see a bigger picture and have a deeper understanding. We, as I said, we can pray for a just peace, not just because justice is deeper than just stopping war and just stopping violence. And so we need, that's often, it's injustice that often sparks the violence, right? Long-term perpetual injustice. And so if we, in order for true peace to happen, we need to focus on justice. And so then that's kind of okay, what good is prayer? But if we are focusing, if we are doing our own work and learning, and we are focusing our hearts on justice, then when we come to interactions here in our everyday lives, we will be more likely to treat each other, to treat our neighbors with peacefully and respect and with justice minded. So we need to look at the interactions in our day-to-day lives. When we encounter people that believe or act differently than ourselves, and try and treat them with respect, with peace, with love and compassion and kindness, then perhaps we will love big enough to create a ripple that will eventually go through the world. So there's conflict everywhere, including in us, in our families, in our communities. And so if we can shift how we handle that, and if we can shift that to a more just and peaceful orientation, then perhaps how conflict will get handled the world over will shift to a more just and peaceful resolution. And so I invite you again, I invite you to come to our showing of Operation Lights Out and to hear more about this humanitarian effort that Canada participated in, and to hear a story about a time when Canada as a country put their lives on the line for peace. And so we're showing the film in Killam on October 21st at 2 p.m. And I think you can access it virtually. So the film itself, not our discussion, but you can access the film virtually. So if you would like to host one wherever you are, you could look into that. If you are close enough that you can participate, I encourage you to come down. We have Rick Fee coming, who's connected with the Presbyterian Church, and who was instrumental in this humanitarian effort. And Rick is coming all the way from Toronto to join us for a discussion after the film. So we deeply appreciate that. And so it's a time where you can come, learn, and celebrate a bright spot in our history and join in the discussion afterwards. And so, friends, to wrap up our midweek reflection this week, I want to leave you with an excerpt. It's not the whole poem, but to leave you with an excerpt from a poem by John Roedel that another colleague had posted, and I shared the full version on our DKR United Facebook page. So if you scroll down in the posts, I'm sure you can find the full version of it. But here is an excerpt of the poem by John Roedel. It says, "I can't make the world more peaceful. I can't prevent children from having to hide in bunkers. I can't keep a madman from creating heartbreaking headlines. I can't convince the news to stop turning war into a video game. The only thing I can do is love the next person I encounter without any conditions or strings. To love my neighbor so fearlessly that it starts a ripple that stretches from one horizon to the next. I can't force peace on the world, but I can become a force of peace in the world." And so, friends, may we each become a force of peace in our world, whatever context that is for you. May God bless you and keep you, and I will see you again next week. Take care. Bye.